Welcome to today's episode of the Hot and Steamy podcast. We'd like to first recognize our sponsors, Kelly Garza of Steamy Chick and Kimberly Ann Johnson of MAGA Mamas. Follow them on Instagram at Steamy Chick and at MAGA Mamas.
Hot, steamy, hot, steamy, hot, steamy, hot, steamy, hot, steamy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Hot and Steamy podcast. I'm hot.
Oh, I guess I'm steamy.
Just kidding. I'm Jale, and this is my husband.
This will get better at some point. Right now, yeah. She's Jale. I'm Mike, and this is the Hot and Steamy podcast.
Yes, thank you for coming back to us for episode 9. We're 9 deep in this joint.
Woo-hoo.
And today we're so excited to welcome my dear friend of, 25 years maybe, Chaz Lovemore. Chaz, will you tell our listeners and our viewers a little more about yourself?
I am a father of 8. Homeschooler, home birther. I'm an audio engineer. That's pretty much what I've been doing for the past 20 years of my life. He's doing music. In a nutshell, there it is.
Yeah.
Babies and music.
Right. Making
Right
babies.
That's real. And that's all the world needs, right? Great
Yeah,
beats and great babies.
Listen to a song, jam out a baby.
Yeah. And then is there anything not related to that stuff that we should know about you? Anything you want to share?
Pretty much who I am. It's just my life, right? That's all I do is family and work. You know what I mean? So
I love it.
Yeah.
It is. Mm-hmm. So you and your wife, Piper, who we had on the show a few episodes ago, do some amazing work with Lovemore Lamaze. Can you tell us about how that company came to be and what you guys do?
Lovemore Lamaze started when we had our first kid after that. Piper was kind of going for entertainment law, but she fell in love with birth. And it was kind of at that point in the stage where I go to the doctor's office and I sit outside and hold her purse while she's in the back getting checked. And the midwife came out and almost like slapped me in the head. Like, get in the back. You're not the only one who did this. Like, she's not the only one having the baby. You need to come back here and participate. And I was like, word, because I assumed I was in the lobby with every other man holding the purse. I thought that was me playing my position. So she brought me back, and every day, every visit, she would talk to me instead of Piper about what's happening in her stomach and make me touch it and feel the baby in the womb, which ended up just empowering me and gave me a clear understanding of birth and my role in it. Not, my job isn't to sit on the side and hold a purse. You know what I mean? My job is to be right next to her and be that knight in shining armor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You want to have a force field, that is your position. You hold down the fort. So after that, I was like, holy shit, every man has to, you know what I mean? Like, how can I teach this to them? How can I explain this to them? Because it will empower us as men, and it will also empower a couple together. Because once they realize their role, then they'll be like, oh man, you know what I mean? So Piper was already teaching Lamaze, and then I started teaching with her to do like a men's breakout group to try to, heal that wound in a sense. Mm-hmm. So that's where Lovemore Lamaze started.
That's dope. That's so dope.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Thanks to that midwife. And also,
right.
We just saw her not too long ago, and she's still the same. And her name is Lonnie, and she's a sweetheart, but she's very straight up. And that's what I appreciate about her, that she wasn't sugarcoating anything or holding my hand. She was kind of like, I hate to use the term man up, but that's kind of what she was saying, like, look, like, I know you don't understand, but come here. Man up. I'll show you exactly what you need to know. So, and now it's a crazy thing. After every visit, I would get on the bus and we would ride the bus home, and I would have all these thoughts and all these fears. So when I come back to her, I'll just ask her my fear, like, what about this? And what about that? And she, would completely explain it to me. So when I walked away from her, I've overcome that fear.
Mm-hmm.
So, heck, see, this is the thing. Like, men need to just be able to put their fears about birth on the table, and then we talk about it and heal that wound.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was important. I love her very much for that.
And that's so basic. If you have a question, ask it so you can get the we all know this. We all know this is how this works.
Exactly. But most men get caught up in the fact that they feel like birth is like over there. You know what I mean? Like you don't go over there. You don't dance in that aisle. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But really it's just as much of you as it is of her.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I feel like our society sort of decides that that's what men's ideas about women's bodies should be around everything except sex, like every part of the female.
Right. But that's the thing, like the control. It's like, I want to control the situation, but I don't really want to know everything about the situation. Just enough to please my taste buds, but all that other stuff, I don't really want to know about, but I want to control it. And it's like, you can't. In order to really have a peaceful journey, you know what I mean? You got to understand what's going on and not just trying to control and navigate the journey with no understanding.
Would you say that that's one of the hardest things for a lot of men to, I guess, come to terms with or even be open to?
Yeah, I think it's the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, A, they don't know about it. B, their ego isn't going to allow them to question or ask questions about it because they're like, oh, that's not my responsibility. So I'm not really going to do it. And it's just overcoming all of those barriers that have been put up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? First, we just got to start with hugging each other. You know what I mean? Like, here's a hug. Okay, now let's sit down and talk. Let's just break down some walls first. We're definitely gonna have to crawl before we walk to get there. Yeah. Because we gotta, recalibrate the man's mind to take away all those barriers that have been hindering us for all these years.
Mm-hmm. So that first birth that you were talking about, another thing I remember about that birth is that you guys did the documentary Orgasmic Birth.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched the documentary. I've talked with Piper about it a few times, and maybe you both about it a few times. But is that title accurate? Like, can you actually have an orgasmic birth?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a woman in the film who has an orgasmic birth. And the thing is that birth is primal. So, and they go into like an oxytocin. So if the partner is in the right state of mind, in the right space, they can go to the stars. You know what I mean? They just have to be in that environment. And every little nuance affects, what they're absorbing in that birth moment. You know what I mean? So if there are all these people walking in and out and, all these machines beeping and dinging, then that's distracting. And that's not allowing them to completely open and be porous and allow all of those things to flow in and flow out. Like, it's totally possible, but they just have to get so far into that euphoric state to allow it to happen. Most people aren't really given that space,
And I mean, all of the images that were shown of birth in the media is like just screaming and holding her down. And
the way they project it is like as if they're right in like transition. You know what I mean? Like women tend to have that much overwhelming right before the baby comes out. The whole part of birth and labor, you know what I mean? It's actually sensual and peaceful. You know what I mean? They just show that one clip. And I mean, I haven't personally experienced that. I haven't seen it. Piper's delivered a lot of babies, and I've been outside the houses, and it's quiet. All you hear is, they're in there for a few hours. Next thing you know, you hear a baby crying. And they're like, "Oh man, no one was screaming. She didn't throw anything. There were words." I'm like, that's TV. That's them brainwashing you again. Mm-hmm. And that's where the men get feared. They're like, "Oh my God, she's going to call me out on my name. She's going to throw stuff at me. This is your fault." And that's not really the case. It's actually an awesome journey to embark on.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So this next question we've touched on a little bit, but it's, what are some things you think it's important for men to know about the birthing process? So that what you just said is number one, right?
Right.
What else?
Really, it's a journey. It's not a sprint, right? So it starts when, conception. So 9 months of her going through all these different emotions and body changes, it's preparing you for a very long journey you're embarking on. And if you can be present, which is the key word, being present, because at the end of the day, it's not about the man. It's about the mother and the daughter, or the mother and the baby, sorry. But the man does play a role as the partner. And, first you go through pregnancy and you guys got to learn each other, and all these hormones are fluctuating. And the man doesn't realize he is also pregnant. You know what I mean? You might have chocolate cravings, like you both are in sync, right? So now, once you get into that state and then you get into labor, labor is another more intense state than pregnancy. And you just have to be there and hold the space for her. And then at the end of that, what do you get? A baby. You know what I mean? There's your gem. And then you now are both co-parenting. And then before you know it, the kid's trying to play both of you. You know what I mean? Like, "Daddy, can I get some candy?" All right, "Yo, Mommy, can I get some candy?" Nah, But the more you spend trying to get on the same page and in sync, then you'll already know, "Can I get some candy?" "No, Mommy already told you no."
Right.
But you already know what's going down.
Right.
That's how it is for birth and everything. It's really just being present and open to what it is,
Can you speak a little more about men also being pregnant and what those experiences are like?
So from my experience, it started with Che, because when we had Che, it was all new to me, you know what I mean? But there was I'm not really a huge chocolate person, but I was craving chocolate, and I was craving certain things, and we made a joke, and I was like, "Man, I feel like I'm pregnant too." And I mentioned it to the midwife, and she was like, "Well, you are, because we're in sync and our bodies are in harmony with each other. I have some of the same, not physical changes, but body changes." You know what I mean? No, not even hormones, just energy exchange of saying, her belly's getting big, but you might be sleeping in more. There's just little things, and you won't really think about it because you're a man. You're like, "It ain't happening to me," but really it is. And it's you have to really open up to even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, someone can't walk in the house and point it out, but if you're in the situation, just pay attention to how things changed for the man, and you'll realize that, hey, I'm having, I never eat a pint of ice cream by myself. Why am I? Why is this movie making me cry all of a sudden? It's just a little subtlety, but that's what it is. And now, I'm pretty aware of it. So now I can make jokes and "Oh man, this pregnancy is killing me to this one, because now I haven't ate this many Snickers in a year, So that's what I meant about men being pregnant.
Yeah.
I have heard situations where men also might have bloating at their extremity, inflammation at their hands or feet, or hip pain, empathetic hip pain too.
Yeah. And if you could be tuning in, and, that's the thing about it is that's why I say it's a journey, because from conception, there's all these things that are happening, and they're mainly happening to the partner, and men tend to overlook it. You know what I mean? You're like, all right, you're pregnant. I'll be back. I'm going to work. You know what I mean? What do you need? I'll make that happen for you. And we tend to just override that part of us who's also, we're not just the drivers on this journey. You know what I mean? We're both walking down this path together. So it's just being open and porous to receive those subtleties, because everyone goes through it. Just not everybody pays attention to it. So it's how you like it or not.
Right. So let's talk a bit about the postpartum period. What, as a non-birthing partner, what are some things that other non-birthing partners should expect about the postpartum period?
That's a good one. So from my experience, what I typically do is I quarantine my entire house for 30 days. If you don't live in my house, you don't come to my house. You don't come. So Piper and the baby stay in the bedroom for 2 weeks, because what's happening after those 9 months and then birth, like her body went through all these changes. Think of it now having to go back. It's not something, you know what I mean? It's not like a rubber band. A snapback ain't that fast. So it takes time. So that's why she just lays in the bed, because now she has to heal, and there's food brought to her. There's a cooler next to the bed. There's bleeding that happens. So if she gets up and has to go to the bathroom, I typically walk with her and hold the baby, because if she passes out and hits her head on the toilet, now that's 2 people that fell, and for us, I moved the entire family into the bedroom, kids, projector. We're just spending 2 weeks in our bedroom alone. And that way the baby gets to absorb all of our germs, and we get to learn each other's rhythm. And, if we could find like this little cute feet, kiss, and let the baby be naked and really pay attention to that. And we all just kind of bond, all their siblings could be around. And also the woman's body gets to heal, which is the most important part, because that takes time. And if you rush it, that's when they tend to have complications. So I quarantined for a month. So we put a cooler outside. People could come and drop food in the cooler. And once they're out of the driveway, I'll open the door, take the food, bring it inside. But prior to that, we do food prep. We'll make a bunch of meals and freeze them, because that way I'm not running around. I can also sit and enjoy the baby and the moments with them as well. So I can go downstairs and throw something in the oven, come back upstairs, and then we're all chilling. And that way she gets to heal. So, even then, when after 7, I would go and put together the steam, and the yoni steaming, and bring it up for her and hold her hand while she sat there and worked it out and cleaned it up, and then let one of the siblings hold the baby. And it's really important for bonding, because also, say if like for a man learning how to change a diaper, if this is your first time, the last thing you want is all these people telling you how to do it without you trying to do it, because then that takes away from your confidence as well. The
experience, yeah.
And it doesn't make you feel as comfortable and as strong about it. Yeah. Because they're like, I've been putting on diapers for 45 years. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'll feel you, but this is going to be my first time. You know what I mean? I might get poop all over me. It's fine.
And it's fine. Right.
It's fine. That's what water's for.
Right.
So it's just things like that I think are important to really strengthen the bond and the connection. And so after that, that's all it is 30 days in the house. By week number 3, they'll come downstairs and hang out in the living room. But even then, it's like I tend to limit the amount of walking she does, just to make sure all healing is done. But we'll come out and sit in the sun for a little bit, then go back inside, and it's all just quarantine. So then when we go outside, and then if we do decide to go, we might like go to the store and then back, because baby's also being used to being in this close knit environment. And now we're going out into the world and baby's overwhelmed. You know what I mean? You might be overwhelmed by all these people around your baby.
Mm-hmm.
So you just go back to the house. So that, you know, this whole quarantine thing now is natural to us because we, at least every 2 years for 30 days. So, you know, that's what I have to say about postpartum. It's very important.
Yeah, before we move on. So I'm pretty open to concepts like that. Like I don't mind going against whatever status quo is,
right,
or whatever's being fed to me or whatever. But I know a lot of men kind of struggle with the idea of doing what's right, you know, quote unquote, or doing what's acceptable or whatever. So I would imagine that, like, you know, for you, you have kind of lived a life of just being like, man, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Like I learned the way I learned, you know, I moved the way I move. But how would you suggest people who aren't necessarily as open to those kind of concepts, or they think in those terms of like being right or being accepted and all that, how would you recommend they get started thinking like this and moving like this? Because like, even before you answer, like even just the diaper thing, like there are a lot of guys that would like go down a YouTube wormhole on how to change diapers, and there are guys who call aunts and do it on FaceTime, and you know, and there's not to say there's anything wrong with that, but like I'm one who, like, I like to jump in things and swim through it and figure it out. Right. And, you know, don't tell me how to do it. I'm gonna find my way. If I'm struggling, I'm gonna hit you, you know, but let me experience this whole thing. So how would you?
Well, I think that's important, because when you experience it your way, then it becomes yours. You know what I mean? And really, for this whole process, slow motion is better than no motion. Mm-hmm. You know, if you are into it and you at least are like, man, you know, I kind of want to head in this direction. You know, that's the thing about Piper and I. We always had this idea of the way we wanted our family to be. You know what I mean? Together, not how it fits inside this world, but how it fits with us. Mm-hmm. And that that's how we've done it. And I think for partners, if you just have to have an understanding of where you're trying to go and the hurdles you may have to jump to get there. And you know what I mean? A lot of this is not necessarily designed for men. So you're going to have to humble yourself. You know, you're going to have to bite your tongue. You're going to have to throw the fact that you're a man out the window. And it's, you know, it's how can I describe it? A tough one. Do you know, if that's what you want to do it. Who cares what your homie down the street has to say? Like, I'm not doing it for him. You know what I mean? I'm doing it for us. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, that's cool. We can meet at this level. Mm-hmm. If that's where we are, you know what I mean? I have a friend at work. He's always like, man, you know, you're a better man than me, or all these things because of what I do with my family and for my family. And I'm like, we're no different. I'm just choosing to do X, Y, and Z. You're choosing not to do it. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say I'm stepping up to the plate. I'm just choosing to do it. You're choosing not to. That's the difference between us. You know what I mean? You wanted to go right. I decided to go left. You know what I mean? Left isn't necessarily easy. Left isn't the norm, but that's my direction I'm trying to head in. So, all right, just do it. And you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be bumps in the road. You just have to get through it and overcome it, and just know that you're doing it for you and your squad and not for everyone else watching. You know, that's why I started teaching Lamaze. Like, if these guys want to be there for their partners, let me explain to them from my, you know, my experiences of how I see it go. You know, fortunately, I've been around 7 births. So I've seen them like, oh man, and they're all different. You know, even though this one went this way and I have these tools for this, when it comes to that moment, the same tools don't apply. And you're like, oh man, I thought I had this in the bag. I've done it. But, you know, that's not the time to tuck and run and say, and, you know, give it up. It's just time to just step back, take a deep breath, and you're present. So it's just going to come to you. You don't have to trip. You just got to be present. And I think that's what it is men just need to be educated, right? Because it's the fear of the unknown. So once we overcome the fear of the unknown, now you've been empowered. And now you're going to move into it in a stronger way. So I think if they are into it, they just need to, you know, address their fears and overcome the fear of the unknown. And once you do that, you're going to be like, oh man, I got this. You know, and that's just what it is, you know.
And I mean, a lot of what you've described, like the day-to-day stuff that you're doing, it just sounds really manly to me. Like, you know, like setting everything up, like protecting your lady and your babies, providing for your lady and your babies. Like, that sounds like a heavily and divinely masculine role to me.
Right. And that's the thing. It's who's determining that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to cook. So I don't mind cooking, you know what I mean? And I'm waking up like, bang, we'll bang out 8 meals if I have to. And some people are like, you cook, that's a woman's job. Like, says who?
Right.
You know what I mean? Old society. We're not in the 40s anymore. And if we were, I probably would be doing the same thing I'm doing now then, just because this is how the direction I'm moving in. You know, so however you look at it, or however you compare it to something else, it is what it is as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? These are the choices that I'm making or that we're making, and that's the direction we're moving in. So some people might see it as less manly. Some people might see it more manly. But at the end of the day, it's just how we're moving. You know what I mean? Call it what you want. But.
And I mean, investing in your lady's recovery, you know what I mean? Like, investing energy and focus in her recovery means that you have like a very able-bodied partner for the rest of these babies' lives. And you're not also having to continue to care for her when her back goes out because she wasn't allowed to rest long enough. And like, it makes a lot more sense when you're looking at it in a long term, like from a bird's eye view.
Indeed. I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, and it's also like in those moments, you see so much of each other, you know what I mean? And there's so much of you that's exposed, and, you know, it's the partner. So it's kind of like, oh, dang, you know, I've seen you in your worst. I've seen you in your best, and I've seen you everything in between, and it's all good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some people don't want to be caught. You know, some women don't want to have their partner see them in pain, which in labor, they call it pain. And it's an intense situation. You know what I mean? Most men, if it was a boxing match, you would throw in the towel. Like, nah, get her out the ring. Because it looks so overwhelming that even for me, I was like, shit, like, man, I don't know if I could do that. You know what I mean? And you just mash through it. Wow, look how strong you are. Like, it made me have that much more respect, but it also was like, this is it's happening, whether I want it to or not. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing about men. We like to fix things. Birth isn't something you can fix. It's something you can participate in, but you can't control it. You know? So if that's the case, then figure out how to be a part of it and not how to control it or steer it or navigate it into your direction, you know? Because that's where you come into problems.
Yeah.
And if you get to see it going, and I mean, it's an awesome thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Did I answer those right by chance?
Totally. Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just you're just dropping so many gems that I'm
Yeah.
just like I get lost in one gem and then you drop another one. I'm just trying to kind of catch up.
Right on.
But the next question is, so many men feel less than knowledgeable about women's bodies in general, like just their bodies, you know.
Right.
And also, of course, women's experiences. So where do men begin in knowing like where and how to show up for women during pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period? Like,
again, it all starts with choice of, do you want to participate, or do you want to be the guy in the waiting room while she's in labor? Or do you want to be in the room standing next to her? For starters, you know what I mean? Like, are you going to be a hands-on or a hands-off person? You know, way before you even get pregnant. Like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? What role do you want to play in this relationship? Are you like, yo, it's us, or that's her and this is me? You know what I mean? We don't really do it each other like that. She does her, I do me. But we do show up for each other sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, it depends on what kind of role you want to play in a relationship in general. And that will now allow you to determine who you are for the rest of it. You know what I mean? So if you're a hands-on type of guy, then now when she's pregnant, you can, you know what I mean? You'll be willing to make food and rub her feet and rub her back and all those things. And then when it comes to labor, you're going to want to be in the room. So really, I think it depends on who you want to be and what role you want to play, and that really determine how it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to show up, then you're going to show up and do that. And in order to really get through it, is you have to overcome the fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, if you're going to show up, then you're going to try to overcome that fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you ain't trying to show up, then
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a narrative around men no longer being interested in sex with their partners after witnessing childbirth because they don't want to put their partner through that again, or they don't want to put them through it the first time. Even Mike had some fears, you know, that a lot of this podcast we talk about, like the maternal mortality rates in the U.S. And
right.
he just had some fears about me dying in or after childbirth. So what's your take on that narrative?
I think it's I think a lot of men are like, oh man, it could be sexual. You know what I mean? Like, after they see a baby come out of there, they're like, oh my God, is she ever going to feel me again? You know what I mean? Like, am I ever going to be as effective as I once was? And that's the thing. If you see her go through childbirth, it is very overwhelming for a man to see. So that alone, he might throw his hands up like, oh my God, he couldn't personally handle that. So that's why he might not want to do it again, because it was too much for him. You know, and really, you have to understand that women have been giving birth before there are hospitals. So their bodies are designed to do this. So there's nothing you can do to control it. But if you hold the space so she can go into that primal state and have the baby, then if you're there and you're present, you'll understand that it's not as bad as it looks. You know what I mean? It's actually a beautiful thing. And I think it's just really the overcoming the fear, you know, that they don't want to be intimate. Their sex after childbirth, you know what I mean? Yeah. People feel lots of ways about it. And it's all good. You know what I mean? It's just, you have to overcome that fear. Is what it all boils down to. Is if you have some fears, just address them and get over it and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the 4th trimester STEAM study. So what were your first thoughts on the study?
I saw it. I was like, wow, they put together a lot of information. But it makes sense to me because we do the 4th trimester thing at home, which is the whole quarantine. Some people are out and about very quickly. And for us, I made that decision. Like, you know what? We're staying in the house for 30 days. Like, this is what we're going to need. And no one told me that. I just kind of thought about it and was like, you know what? I have this new little baby I never saw. I want to see how long it takes me to find their birthmark. You know what I mean? Like, let me look at these little toes. Let me get to know these fingers. And last thing I need is a bunch of people that the baby doesn't know, bringing all these germs in their faces. So that's why I think that's why we do the quarantine. So the 4th trimester, it's all about healing and bonding.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's just as many months as it took for her to develop this baby. And half the time, their bodies need the same time to heal. Mm-hmm. So I think that's first and foremost the most important, because now that the baby's out, they're like, all right, cool, back to life. And it's like, no, well, there's still a whole nother process that's happening after the fact. Mm-hmm. And that's where partners can really play a role. Mm-hmm. And let them just lay down and heal. And then now your mom, dad, your husband, wife, your grandma, your grandpa, that's who you become. You know what I mean? Because you go down and cook, you do the laundry, you know what I mean? You do everything so they can heal. Mm-hmm. And that's important. If not, then there's going to be complications after the fact. Mm-hmm. And it's like, which one do you want? Do you rather cook or go to the hospital? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Making a meal ain't that hard, is it?
So since this was you guys' first time doing the postpartum steam, did you notice any differences in the way Piper healed up, like with the steaming?
Yeah, well, I think there was like some afterbirth still stuck inside that, once her uterus closed, it didn't have a chance to come out yet. And we kind of noticed that like every so often there'll be discharge of like the membrane. Mm-hmm. So when we did it, the steam actually helped. Like it made it come out a lot faster. I did notice that she healed a lot faster after the steaming, and she pretty much did it every day, once a day for like 20, 30 minutes. And that was it. And then she's back on the bed laying down. And I think the steaming definitely helped. And she has like 10 different herbs. So, she would switch up the mixture for certain moods. And I think it was, I saw it firsthand. I thought it was effective. Mm-hmm. And it was simple. It's not weird or,
right.
It's just another holistic way to heal yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then what do you think the greater implications are for this study? Like now that it's out there and people can read it and it's sort of in terms that are a little more accessible to people who are maybe uncomfortable with like holistic medicine.
Yeah. And it's just really people getting on that. It's just people getting on that same page. I think it'll be very effective, and it's for everyone, and everyone should use it. But how many people are going to go in that direction, is just something that has to build up, and more people just need to be informed about it. And I think seeing it firsthand, I know it's effective. Mm-hmm. So it's just how to provide it to other people. And I noticed Piper's done a few births, and if they've had complications after their birth, she typically goes and gives them a steaming. So that's, it's like each one, teach one, reach one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dope. Well, that's all the questions except that we want our listeners to know if they have more questions for you, they want to learn more about Lovemore Lamaze, or if they want to hire you for audio work. How do they find you?
They can always check us out on Facebook, Lovemore Lamaze. You can check out our website, lovemoreparadigms.com. And just hit us up, drop any questions. I'm around all the time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I
Thank you
learned so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, of course. This was fantastic. And I know that we'll both be talking to you both a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and feel free to ask me any more questions and hit me up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And now it's time for Mansplaining with Mike.
See? You see what I'm talking about?
Mansplaining with Mike.
Why so many claps? All right. So on this episode, we got the brilliant Chaz Lovemore. He is kind of like the manliest guy I've ever met in my life. So I'm gonna just get started with, he's a sound engineer by trade, but I'm gonna change that to now he's a birthing engineer, to where he he puts together all of these things and all the vibes and the sounds and the experiences to make sure that men and women can have like proper birth. So it just kind of stuck out to me. It's probably terribly wrong, but I was just like, yeah, he's a birthing engineer. All right, cool. I like the fact that he quarantined the whole house after the birth. And so because of that, I just pictured like bear traps all around the house and him just like threatening people. Threatening people to daring that they would come up to the house during the quarantine. And then that led me down the path of like him being a drill sergeant, even though I know that's very far from who he is, but now he's a birthing drill sergeant, a birthing drill sergeant with the chef hat. And he cooks meals with bear traps and uses steaming herbs to do so. So that's what I learned in this episode with Chaz Lovemore. So yeah.
Yay! Thank you for mansplaining that to us, Mike.
That was a good one.
All right, Chaz.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hot and Steamy podcast. Feedback is gold, so please like, comment, share, and subscribe. This podcast was made possible by our sponsors Kelly Garza of Steamy Chick and Kimberly Ann Johnson of Mamas. Visit our website for more information on them and our other guests, to view extras, and to purchase merch. That's www.hotsteamypodcast.com. www.hotsteamypodcast.com.